Yeah.
That's the word. That's the word. Recording.
Recording is also old.
But at least that's what it says. So
that's even older than tape. That's record. No, that's coming from record. Okay, so we have this machlokes between Ulla and Rabbi Yochanan, where if somebody is supposed to get punished with malkos and mammon, so Ulla had said that you give him mammon, and Rabbi Yochanan said, I mean, you can't do kedei rishasai b'shum risha achas atam achayva v'atam achayva b'shum shtei rishayis. Right? You can only give a guy one punishment. You can't give him two. So Ulla says you give him, well, if you have the choice between mammon and malkos, so you give him mammon. He pays the money. And Rabbi Yochanan says if you have the choice between the two, so then you give him malkos. Yeah. So the bottom line. So now each one is gonna analyze each other's opinions. Rabbi Yochanan, my time a lot of Ulla. How come Rabbi Yochanan doesn't say like Ulla? She says, Imkain batalta, you're gonna be bavatal the punishment of ervas achos v'loy segala. The erva of your sister, you should not be megala. Meaning a guy is not supposed to sleep with his sister, and if he does, so you're supposed to get malkos. Obviously, chorus also, right? So, but if you're gonna say this din of mammon, so you're gonna be bavatal this mitzvah. Right? So let's see. The Gemara says on top of Aleph, chayvu chaverei nami. So why are you asking only on? Why are you saying only from ervas achoscha? Chayvu v'chaverei also you're gonna be ruining the passuk. Imken batalta lo Yosef pen Yosef. Right? You're going to be mevatel the passuk of don't add on any more hitting to the person. Adam Zayim Menami. Adam, guys, you mind being a little quiet? Thank you. Adam Zayim Menami. Adam Zayim also imken batalta. You're also being mevatel v'hoya im bin makos Russia. Right? If you're going to hit the Russia, meaning if you're going to say Adam Zayim pay, and they don't get malkos, so then you're being vayim bin hakos Russia. You're being mevatel that passuk. Ella Adam Zayim efshel kiyum ben grusha ben chalutza. Adam Zayim you can be makayim them with the ben grusha ben chalutza. Why? Because ben grusha ben chalutza. Again, the case of ben grusha ben chalutza is when they come to Bezin and they say this guy can't be a kohen because his father married a divorced woman or a chalutza woman. So therefore he's puzzled to kahuna. So we can't make the Eidim get the same punishment. So we don't do that. So we give them malkos. So you see that will work with malkos. So also hitting your friend, you could get it where there's going to be a case of malkos. Don't you call hakah she'ein b'shava pruta? Like we said yesterday, you could hit a guy with a hakah that's not a shava pruta. So therefore, there's no mammon involved because anything less than a shava pruta is nothing. But you are going to be chayiv malkos. And the sister also, you can get a case where he's going to have to get malkos because bogeres, where his sister's a bogeres, he sleeps with his sister who's above 12 and a half years old, right? So there's no knas there because she's not a naira. So therefore, there is a scenario where a guy sleeps with his sister and he's going to get malkos, right? So since we have all these scenarios, so there is no bittul of these psukim. Okay, so now why is Rabbi Yochanan not learning like Ulla? So Rabbi Yochanan will tell you, the passuk of tachas, right? Again, Ulla had learned it out from Gzeira Shav of tachas, right? That just like by tachas asher ina. So it's talking about money. So today we're talking about money. So hi tachas asher ina mi boile look at Abaya. He needs it for what Abaya said. Amar Abaya, Amar Kra, tachas asher ina. It says because he caused her pain. Right? Hi tachas asher ina. When it says because he caused her pain, that's why he has to pay her. It's mashma that there's going to be also that he has to pay for her embarrassment and for why she's worth less. Meaning, if the passuk's telling you he has to pay her a fine because tachas asher ina, so it's mashma that there's other things to pay also, which is baishas pagam. Yeah, so that's why he needs the passuk of tachas, and therefore it's not available for him to learn out that mammon and malkos you pay mammon. Okay, what about Ulla? Where is Ulla going to learn out this din that you have to pay a woman if you rape a woman that you have to pay her pusha for her embarrassment and why she's worth less for Ulla? Mafkanoi midirava, Domarava, Omar Krov, Nosan Isha, Shaychiv Ima Lavi, Anara Hamishim Kesef. It says that you give, the man has to give, the man that slept with her has to give to the father 50 kesef. Hana shchiva chamishim, it says like the hana of sleeping is 50. Mechlal, diika baishas begam. So you see from this that there's also baishas begam, and he's paying the 50. That's because of the hana of sleeping with her. But baishas begam, is going to be in addition to that. Okay, so that's why Rabbi Yochanan did not want to learn like Ulla. Now the Gemara's gears here is Rabbi Elazar. That means it's a Tana. That clearly cannot be Rabbi Elazar. So Baruch Hashem, the Masaras Hashas jumped it before Gershon would say it and changed it to Rabbi Elazar, right? So it's so Rabbi Elazar says he has a different shot, right? I mean, he's talking about why Adam Zayman that you don't need a passuk to say that you get malkos. Adam Zayman, yeah, go ahead.
The other things that he has to pay, nezik tzaripun shevas, that's based on who he is and who she is, and who the experts say, right?
Based
but the chamishim is that's finite.
The chamishim is a set, yeah. Chamishim is set, right?
Even though it's based on the hana he got, so that should be measured also. Why is it saying that the Torah?
What are you saying?
I'm saying the chamishim is a set amount, and it says that's because the hana he had from the ma'aser.
Right.
But if the other things are all based on whatever they're based on I don't know. I mean, I'm not the Baruch Hashem, I have no idea what the other four things are based on.
Et cetera, yeah.
Yeah, so it matters from person to person. But why did the Torah say the chamishim?
No, chamishim is the fine that he gets hana. That's a
but
set hana for him.
That should depend on who he is and who she is. I mean, what's her name? Achashverosh wanted to give half the world to Esther Malka.
Right. I hear. I don't know. Now that you're getting me thinking, like sometimes if you're a famous guy and you're honest a lady, it could actually be a shvach.
I didn't want to say it. I was waiting.
I figured that's where you're going. Right? I don't know, Taka. I don't know how that works. We'll have to see that more more above a comma, Bez Hashem. Gershon doesn't like it. Okay, sure. Fine. Either way, let's see. So
there's a difference between Hanas Shchiva and a relationship, or I don't mean a relationship in the sense that two people have a relationship, but the difference between two people doesn't make a difference to the Hanas Shchiva. Hanas Shchiva is Hanas Shchiva.
Avad makes a difference. What are you talking about? Avad makes a difference. What are you talking about?
The Shchiva is the same, whatever happens. There's no difference to the Shchiva.
Okay, fine, good. Maybe in your
it's the
world.
relationship that's different.
Fine. Maybe in your world, fine.
He's okay. I hear what you're saying. He's saying the Maisa, without getting too graphic, he's saying the actual Maisa is the same. The whatever goes on before the Maisa and all that could be different. Okay, but that could be part of the Hana. Okay.
That might be part of Baishas.
Could be part of Baishas. Yeah, could be.
That's what this is saying. This Rosh is saying this is in place of Nezek.
Yeah. Maybe.
The actual Shchiva is worth X. The rest of it, yes, subjective.
Yeah. Okay, whatever it is. I don't know how to calculate it. Okay, so anyways, Rabbi Elazar Aimer, Adam Zayman b'mayna Mashalmi Milka Le'Loki. Adam Zayman pay and they don't get malkos Mashum the Lav B'nei Hasroninu. This is a very interesting twist that the Gemara is saying. They're not themselves. The whole Gemara is interesting, which I don't really understand it so well. But Mashum the Lav B'nei Hasroninu. You can't give Hasra to Adam Zayman. Why not? Right, Omar Rava. So Rava says, Teida, how do I know? Nisri Buhu Amos. When exactly are you giving them Hasra? Nisru Bu Me'ekara. If you're going to give them Hasra before they go to Bezdin. Rashi says a day or an hour before they say the Eidos. Meaning, you're sitting in the bar outside the courthouse, and these guys say, "Oh, we're gonna go nail this guy now and lie." So they give him a warning, right? That you guys better be careful because you're gonna be chayiv if you do this. So if they did it that far before Amri, today I'm gonna say that's not a warning. Ishtalin, we forgot about it, right? That it was too early. Nitri bahu b'shas ma'isa. If you're going to give them hasra b'shas ma'isa, right, what it happens, harshi v'loy misadi, then nobody's going to say edus. Meaning, if before every time a guy says edus, you get up and tell him, by the way, if you're lying, you're going to get whacked, right? So he's going, what? I don't need the edus.
That's what they do in court now.
What?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah, but but they don't say what's going to happen.
Otherwise, you perjure yourself.
Good, but it doesn't say what's going to happen to you.
Perjury.
Yeah, but it doesn't. They don't. Hasra has to.
Sanhedrin can say the same thing.
So he's right.
Don't be agents over them.
You just add, so you could add that to the spiel that the bailiff says. You can add another 3 sentences.
Isn't it a hasra suffix though?
Taisus kasha. That's Taisus kasha. Taisus Nisri who Meikara asks. Hasra suffix. You don't know what these guys are going to say, right? Meaning, what's a normal hasra? You see a guy about to go into McDonald's and eat a hamburger, so you tell him, "Don't eat that hamburger." That's not hasra. So that's hasra's vada.
He said I was going to find out that I was going to buy a Pepsi. I wasn't buying a hamburger. I was buying a Pepsi. What do you have me a cup?
Let's say he has a hamburger right in front of him. That's from McDonald's.
Rove people that walk into McDonald's are not buying just a soda.
That's a big summer.
How many franchises do you own?
Yeah, I don't want to say it publicly.
Okay.
This is actually, this over the next few weeks. That's a big shiloh because everybody's traveling. They say, "Okay, can I go to McDonald's and get myself a drink?" But meaning hasra suffix is if you have 2 hamburgers in front of you. One is from I don't know, Kosher Delight, Oliver Shalom, and one is from McDonald's, and you know for sure, right? So you guys about to eat it. So hey, don't eat the tray for one. Okay, you have no idea if he's eating the tray one. That's hasra suffix. Hasra zvada is where you see him take the McDonald's hamburger, and that's hasra zvada. So that's what Gershon's asking. That's Taisus kasha. You don't know what these guys are going to say in their edus. Okay. Either way, so he's saying partially they're not going to testify if you give them this major warning like that. You can't warn them afterwards, like, "Hey, I hope you said the truth," right? Because whatever happened, happened. Yeah, so they're meaning that which Rashi says, they're not allowed to change their mind, which is very interesting that Rashi's saying that. I would just say, they did the mice already. What's the warning? That's what I would have said in my puny little brain. Right, but Rashi's saying no. Theoretically, if they could change their testimony, then the hasra after the fact would be right. Meaning, let's say the guy just testified, and then his friend is sitting in the courthouse and says, "Hey, buddy, you just lied your head off." So he said, "Oh, let me run back and change it." No, we don't accept it if he goes back and changes it. So therefore, the hasra is meaningless, right? Because he can't change it. Okay. So anyway, that's what Rav is saying. So then there's no way to give the guy hasra. Okay, I know what I'm not clear is, so we can say this with every Isser, right? Meaning, at what point are you supposed to give a guy hasra?
Isn't that why Bezdin never said once in 70 years they were called it never happened because it never happened.
You're right. This is probably part of it. Part of why this is. Yeah. So anyway, so Maskula Abaya. So Abaya had a kasha on Rava. V'nisri bu b'tzar k'dei dibur. Why can't they give hasra? Tarkidei dibur, right? Meaning within Shalom Aleichem Rebbe Meiri or Rebbe, right? And then they could change their mind. Yeah. So that's one kasha Abaya says. So they could do it within. The Maskevler of Achabrei the Rav
Ika is the very right that Tarkidei dibur has a chain effect. There isn't just one Taif K'dei Dibur. In other words, they would give Hasra within Taif K'dei Dibur of the Eidos, and then within Taif K'dei Dibur of that, they can change it. That would be still considered Taif K'dei Dibur of the original Eidos. even though it's
That's
5 minutes after.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're on the ball, Gershon. That's the next thesis. That's it. You hear what Gershon's saying? Gershon's saying, well, when does Taika de Dibur? Does it go with the beginning of their words, or does it go at the end of the words? Because the Hasra takes longer than Taika de Dibur. Taika de Dibur is, what do we call Taika de Dibur? 2 seconds, 3 seconds, right? Just to give the Hasra is if you're gonna, what's Hasra? If you're gonna testify falsely, you're gonna get yourself money. That's already too long, right? So so that's Taisus, right? So Taisus says that as long as you're being Isaac in the Hasra, as long as it started first, then that's enough. Yeah. Which again is maybe a raya to, as long as you start davening before this man, another bein hazman in Gemara, another bein hazman in practical. As long as you start this davening before this man, then maybe we attach it all to the beginning of this man, right? Maybe, I don't know.
So Yaakov, what is this man? Let's say on Shabbos is, let's say 9 o'clock. It's the beginning of the minute or the end of the minute? When is it?
I think Advad Bichlal.
So it's the end of the 9th.
It's the end of I think.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah. Fine. So okay, so then that's one kasha from Abaya. Second kasha from Abaya is Maskul Rav Acha Bredi Rav Ika V'Nisri Bu Me'ekara. Why can't they give Asra before, but Nirmas Bu Ramuzi, and then give them signs to remind them, right? What do we say? That what are you going to do? An hour before the court case, you're going to remind them, you're going to warn them they better not lie. And so then they say, well, we forgot. Good. So when go into the courthouse and start making hand motions and hope the judge doesn't throw you out.
You have the third base coach who also has a job. He works in the court.
Correct. I hope the Ulla understands your muscle. But yeah, all of a sudden you got a guy standing up in the back of the courtroom waving his hands and all that, and then you get arrested for contempt, right? But whatever it is, you're trying to remind these guys that you better remember, don't lie. So why can't you do that? So those are bias too. What?
Those guys are from Houston.
From Houston?
I got it. Very good.
Oh, I get it.
Very good.
I got it. I hear. So then you could say maybe they should
Can
get
you
an Apple
explain
Watch.
to others that? Can you explain to others that don't get it?
No.
The sign stealing.
The guys that stole the sign. You're not going to know enough, Tully. They stole
No,
the
now I
sign.
know. Now the baseball, I got it. I heard enough from Aaron on it.
Okay, very good. Tully, I'm impressed. I didn't think you would get it. Or you could say with the Apple Watch. Weren't they using Apple Watches also to steal signs? All right. Anyways, yeah, fine. So then Hadaram and Abaya went back and said, Lav Milsi Dami, those are not kashas. Right? Those are not kashas. Here's a different thing. If you're gonna think, this is the interesting twist on Edom Zayman. If you're gonna think that Edom Zayman need hasra, so ki loy masrina bahu loy katlina lu. If you don't give them hasra, then you're not gonna kill them. Is it possible to have the inhu bo katul beloy hasra? Can it be possible that they really wanted to kill the person who they were testifying against without hasra, the inhu bo hasra, and they're gonna require hasra? Meaning, when they got together to kill this guy, they weren't giving hasra. Meaning, they're coming into Bezdin. What a false Edom coming. They're coming in and they concocted this story that this guy killed somebody, right? They're not saying that this guy was warned. Maybe they could say it, but they don't necessarily have to say it, right? So they concocted a story that theoretically, and they could have gotten this guy killed without hasra, right? So now what are you going to say? That they need hasra too? It's not the same. They wanted to kill without hasra, so they should also be able to get killed without hasra, right?
Why isn't that an innate problem in Edom Zayman itself? Why would Bezdin have killed the guy had their Edom gone through? There's no hasra.
Well, no, maybe they're testifying. I think maybe I said they don't. They're testifying that he did have Asra, but he never had Asra. I think I said that he didn't have Asra. I think they're testifying that what are these two clowns coming? They're coming into Bezdin. They're saying Reuven killed Shimon with Hasra and da-da-da. But Lamaisa, Reuven never had the Hasra. And they were going to kill him. Bezin was going to kill him based on that. So now what are we going to say? Oh, but we can't kill these Eidim Zayim clowns because they didn't have Hasra. Well, if you want to do Kasher Zamam, they tried to kill without giving Hasra, without the guy giving Hasra. So they should also, right? So again, let's see that again. They wanted to kill this guy without him having Hasra. And they should need Hasra. You need to do to the Kasher Zaman like they did to their brothers. You don't have that. So therefore, it can't be that they need Asra, and therefore they're going to be Chayiv Mammon even without Asra. Fine. So masculine of Sama Breder of Yirmiyah, Elamayata, Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. How about a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza? The Laimi Kasher Zaman Kamas Rabbi. So Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, you're not giving them Kasher Zaman anyways, like we said, right? When two guys come in and they testify that this guy is not a Kohen. Right, so we're not punishing him. We're not punishing them the way they wanted to give a punishment, because they might not even be kayanim, or even if they are kayanim, they don't get it. So you're not doing pasisam like kashazamim to them. So then they should need hasra. So the Gemara answers, Amakra mishpat echad yilachem. It has to be one judgment. Mishpat ashava lekolchem. Everybody has to have the same judgment. Meaning, just like Eidim Zayimim don't have Eidim, don't have hasra. Meaning your standard Eidim Zayimim don't have hasra. So too, your Eidim Zayimim for Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza also don't have to have Asra. Fine. Now, Rav Shisha Breder Rav Idi, Rav Shisha Breder Rav Idi is now bringing another source that if you somebody who damages his friend, gives money and does not give makos, like Ulla, right? He's backing up Ulla here. That if you have two punishments to give, money and malkos, you give money. If that also you give money and you don't get malkos, because we learn it out from here, right? When two men are fighting, and they hit a pregnant woman, and the child comes out. So what's the din? So they have to pay, right? They have to pay. What do you call it? They have to pay for the fetus, which again is the number one raya, going back to the abortion sugi. That's the number one raya where we say that it can't be that doing an abortion is a chiyuv misa, because otherwise, if they killed the fetus, why aren't they chayiv misa? Right? We're talking about two men fighting. Instead of one man hitting the other man, he hits the woman, makes her have a miscarriage. Right? So why is he not chayiv misa? Elamai, he's not chayiv misa because a fetus is not a living being. Right?
Well, it's a shaygig. Doesn't the Gemara Maga say it's a shaygig?
It's not a shaygig. He wanted.
Well, he's trying to hit someone else.
Well, it's going to be a that's a machlokes that the Gemara is going to discuss now. Right? But according to the shita that says that he did do it on purpose, he's still going to be chayiv, but he's not going to be chayiv misa for that. Right? Either way, not just because an abortion shaila came up again today. So today when we have a passuk, that has to do with it. So then. Yeah, but anyways, so it says when two men are fighting and they hit a pregnant woman and the fetus comes out. Elazar, the mitzvahs I'm sorry, not the mitzvahs. The matzos shebemisa kosamadaber. We're talking about where these guys are out to kill. These guys are not out to have a boxing match and injure each other. We're talking about where the guy's intention when he swung at the other fellow was to kill him, right? And instead he hit the woman. Because it says, and if there's gonna be an asan, meaning if the woman's gonna get killed, then you have nefesh tachas nefesh, which means that even though he intended it his friend, but he killed the woman, he is chayiv. Right? So now what's the case? If they didn't give him hasra, not to swing, and amai mikto, why is he getting killed? Elokshita the asra must be talking about where there is hasra. And they didn't give him hasra they only gave him hasra not to hit his friend, right? And he didn't hit his friend, he hit the woman. Yeah, so we're saying that even though he how do you call it? And I'm sorry, and he died, right. So he was swinging to kill him. He ended up just injuring him. So he has to pay, right? Because he injured the fetus. Right, so he has to pay. What happened? There's no hasra. There was no hasra for the fetus. They warned him, don't swing at your friend to kill him. Right? They didn't warn him, don't swing at this woman too, and then you're gonna injure the fetus. So what is it? So it must be that you give hasra for something strict, like something chomer like misa. It works for something kal, which is damage. And if there's not going to be a asan, then they're going to get paid. They're going to pay. I'm sorry. What does it mean? They're going to be paid. They have to pay money. They have to pay money. So you see that somebody, when we have a choice between giving him malkos and making him pay, we're going to make him pay. That's a raya to Ulla. What do you say?
In this man of the Gemara or whatever this is taking place. So these people are like the people now, when something happens, they stand there and take pictures. They don't help or do anything. So aid them in the same way. They just, do you see the guy? Don't go into McDonald's. Don't go into McDonald's. Don't hit your friend with a baseball bat. Why don't they stop the guy?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why they're not stopping the guy. That has to do with our discussion this morning. Who knows what was going on back then? I don't. All right, let the guy not let the guy not kill him. I don't know. Either way, so we have a raya that when there's money in markets, you give him money. So maskul Rav Ashi. So Rav Ashi has the kasha. We might the ma'asel davar chomer, avi ma'asel davar kal. How do you know that if you give hasra for something chomer, it's a hasra for something kal? Dilma loy havi. Maybe it's not true, right? Because imtim taloy marhavi. Because if you say that it is true, mimaydim misa chamura. Who says that misa is more chomer? On Talmud Beis now. Dilma malkos chomer. Maybe malkos is more chomer. Why? And this gets into a fascinating din here. Dilma. The Rav said, had they given makos, Nagdua means they would give makos or hit him. The Chananim Shalvazai, they would have bowed down to the cross. Right? The story with Chananim Shalvazai with the Nebuchadnezzar, they were supposed to bow down, and instead they were burned alive, and they died al Kiddush Hashem. Right? So what Rav is saying is that had they been tortured, they would not have been able to withstand torture, and they would have given in and bowed down. So therefore, the Gemara is saying, who says that Misa is a more strict punishment? Maybe it's not. Misa is the thing. A guy dies, he dies. It's an instant thing or close to instant. But smacking a guy around could be quite painful, and therefore it's a problem. Right, so meaning who says that Misa is the more chomer? Maybe malkos is more chomer, right? So then, so Amarle Rav Sa, let's see. So Amarle Rav Sam, we'll go to the Taisus in a minute. Amarle Rav Sa for Breder Rav Asi, the Rav Ashi. Amarle Rav Sam, Breder Rav Ashi, the Rav Ashi. V'loy shani loch pein hakosh yesh lo kitzva la hakosh ein lo kitzva. You have to. Are you not going to differentiate between a hitting that has an end to it and a hitting that does not have an end to it? Right? What does that mean? If you know that you're getting 39 malkos, so you know that there's an end. This is a deep psychological word over here. Meaning, stam tortures, you have no idea when it's going to stop. So that's terrible. And that's when they wouldn't, Hanani Mishal Azari would not have been able to withstand it, and they would have bowed down. But if you know that it's 39 makos, so the guy getting punished counts, and he says, okay, pain, there's more pain, more pain, more pain. I got 5 more, 4 more, 3 more, and then he'll be able to survive it. Right? But not if it's, meaning if it's pain that's on, what do you call it? There's no end to it. You have no idea when it's going to end. So then it's much more difficult than if you know it's going to end. So that's what he's saying. So again, it's like this Gemara about the psychology of being tortured. Right? So Now Taisus, let's just read the Taisus because it's the day after Tisha B'Av, but it's mamash from the Asar Ruge Malkos, right? So again, Taisus, second Taisus down is if it wouldn't have been that if they would have tortured Hanai, he would have bowed down to a tzayin. So Taimah Minalan, Tamrina Baharoya, right? The Gemara, famous Gemara Brachas, Keshitziras Rebbe Kiva, when they brought out Rebbe Kiva to kill him, Omar Kol Yomai, I used to mitzvah al passuk zeh. All my days I was mitzvah on this passuk. When am I going to have the opportunity to be mekayim b'chol nafshecha, to give up my whole nefesh for Hashem? But kamena b'chol nafshecha, when am I going to be mekayim b'chol nafshecha? Alma mashmud b'chol nafshecha mayri, right? He's saying with his entire soul, afilu hayu miyasin es ha'adam b'yisurin koshin, even if they would cause somebody pain, with difficult pain, Dumi Rebbe Kiva, similar to Rebbe Kiva, Shayu Misarkin Besara Misrke Barzel, where they how do you call it? They raked his back with hot metal rakes. Lakolshikain the Nagude, Lakolshikain the Nagude. So Tais asking a kasha. You're saying Hanani Mishal Azariah would have given in to the Avodah Zarah for torture. Rebbe Kiva's mashma that you have to let yourself get tortured.
So are we comparing different people on different levels?
Oh, that's an interesting. Yeah, that's in it. Well, we're trying to bring it down to a halachic perspective.
But I'm also saying Rabbi Akiva was able to withstand it, but they so now we're saying that they should have also been able to withstand it.
I don't know if it's withstand it, but it's because if the halacha says you have to withstand it, then we could assume that Hanani Mishal Azariah would keep the halacha, right? L'chayra means that if the halacha was that you can't do avodah zarah, then they wouldn't have done the avodah zarah. We have to assume that, right? So Taisa says interesting teretz. That Salem was not actual avodah zarah. It was just a statue for the cover of the melech. That's why they were moist nefesh. It's a wild teretz of Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam is saying that Hanani Yisrael Azariah me'ikar adin did not have to let themselves be killed because it wasn't legitimate avodah zarah. They did it al kiddush Hashem. It could be because it was a shas hashmag, whatever it is, but they did not. It wasn't real avodah zarah.
But according to Rabbeinu Tam, isn't this one of the causes for the for Haman? It was this and the Mishnah of Achashverosh.
Well, because Mordechai didn't bow down. That's what you're talking about.
We're all the Yidden bowed down except for Hanani Mishav Azariah, and the fact that they went to the Mishnah of Achashverosh were the two reasons that gave Haman the koyach to do what he did.
Right. So what are you saying?
How does Rabbeinu Tam, answer that?
You're saying
he's saying this is not about Elazar. If it's not about Elazar, why is
no?
I
don't
angry?
think he's saying that. I think he's saying in this particular situation, it's not about Elazar.
Right. So then why is Rabban Shalom angry at Kaisrael if they bow down?
Maybe that was a different. Maybe that was about Elazar.
But this is what it was.
Yeah, okay, I don't know. I don't know if that's the exact.
This is the Maisa where they all bowed down except for
right.
And then they ended up in the furnace.
It's the same Maisa. I didn't have what you said.
Yes.
It's all the same Maisa. I hear what you're saying. I hear. Rabbeinu Tam is a chiddush. Rabbeinu Tam at the end of the Taisus himself asks. He says it's not mashma like that because polchu, the translation of the word polchu litzalma is to bow down. That it's a tzelem. So Taisus is a big chiddush, right? Other Rishonim disagree with the Taisus and they say that Enochanami from this Gemara, we paskin that one is not mechuyev to be tortured in order not to do avodah zarah. The big three is only to die, but if somebody were to be if a guy says I'm going to torture if you don't bow down to avodah zarah, from this Gemara is mashma that one is not mechuyev to get tortured. It's wild, but that's what some Rishonim learn. The Rabbeinu Tam's clearly not learning that. Rabbeinu Tam's answering it by saying that it wasn't legitimate avodah zarah.
And they knew that Hanani Mishav Azariah knew that it wasn't a real avodah zarah.
Why not? Why wouldn't they know?
Of course, they would have known it.
I don't know.
They were from the Gedolim of the
What, they
time.
had to wait, 1,000 years till the Taskin that it's not a Zara.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
20-something years ago, the first time I went to Keshubos, my Rebbe taught this slightly differently. He said, Pshat Rabbi Kiva was, what's B'chol Nafshecha? Well, alive and into death. So Rabbi Kiva was saying that this is the first opportunity I've had to live Al Kiddush Hashem. To go through life easy is nothing. But to live Al Kiddush Hashem until I die, going through Masrei
Okay, I mean,
that's why
book.
it's the rest of Klal Yisrael, okay, it's not such a thing. It's not, that's why they weren't, but Rabbi Kiva, Yochanan, Elazar, they would be able to do that.
Everything is relative, Gershon. Rabbi Kiva was eating at McDonald's for 40 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he didn't, when did he get killed?
80 years later.
He was 120, yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He was on, yeah.
He lived 40 years. He was a Balchua at 40 years old. He spent 40 years until the Korban Abayas. Then he got his new Talmidim. 40 years after the Korban, he was Nifter.
I hear. That's interesting. Okay, whatever it is, but the other Rishonim hold that one is not mechuyev to be tortured. Right? You're not mechuyev to be tortured. The way Rabbeinu Tam's understanding is that the reason why they're not mechuyev to be tortured is because it wasn't real avodah zarah. So that's why they would not have taken, for death they would have done it. For torture they would not have done it. Right? Okay. And it's interesting because I spoke about this Gemara Rabbi Kiva yesterday, of course not knowing that the Tosfos, and there was just a fascinating word, I think it would be remiss without saying it, from Rav Gifter, because that whole Gemara Rabbi Kiva, right? So they asked Rabbi Kiva, why are you teaching Torah B'Ramim at the threat of death? So he said to them, it's like the story with the fish and the fox. The fox tried to get the fish out of the water because they were afraid of being trapped. And the fish said, what are you going to take us out of the water? Then for sure we're going to die. So Rav Gifter had asked, I heard this from Rabbi Feiner, Rav Gifter had asked, what's this mashal with the fish? Why is he saying this mashal with him? Why don't you just say that we can't live without Torah, finished? So he said, Rav Gifter said that a fish, when you see a fish in a fish tank or in water, a lot of times they're sitting there like bumps on logs. They almost look like they're not alive, right? You want to hit the fish tank and see, is it alive? Is it alive, right? Then when you take it out of the water, like the fox wanted, it's jumping around. You say, it's alive. When really it's about to die, right? So you see, when people are sitting and learning Torah, you think, what, they have no life whatsoever. They're just sitting on the chair, bench warmers, right? They're doing nothing, right? They almost look like they're not alive. Meanwhile, it's everybody else who's running around on vacations and all the other stupidity that we do. We're the ones, be'etzim, that are not alive. The fish are the ones that are alive. That's what we use the Zal Lashon. Right? It's a Chassidish, I don't know what kind of vote it is. It's certainly not a Rosh Hashiva type vote. But anyways, okay. Either way, we should...
Rosh Hashiva from Virginia.
I guess. Yeah. That went to Europe to learn. All right. Anyway, so that's the interesting machlokes of tonight's stuff. Fine. So the back of the Gemara, also Maskal Rav Yaakov in Har Pekoid. So Rav Yaakov in Har Pekoid, we're 6 lines down. Maskal Rav Yaakov in Har Pekoid. Hanichul Rabbanan Damri Nefesh Mamish. This whole thing works according to the Rabbanan. When you say Nefesh, that means that the guy, if theoretically, again, we're talking about the case where one guy's fighting with another guy, and if he kills somebody else, he would have to get killed. El Rebbe Damer Mammon, but according to Rebbe, who says that it's money, right? Then, meaning if you kill somebody, even though your intention was to kill A, and you killed B, you don't have to pay with your life. You just have to pay money. Michael Ameimar. So how can you learn out that how can you know that somebody was warned for something stricter? It works for something. I'm sorry, if he would had hasra and he has to pay moment and malkos, or he has the option of moment and malkos, that instead he gets malkos. Ella Amar Rav Yaakov in Har Pekoid Mishmei the Rava Mehachos. We learn that from someplace else. In Yaakov is halech b'chutz am b'shanta v'nika amaka. Let's say the guy who got beat up. So he stands up and he goes outside and he's able to walk like normal. V'nika maka, and it gets clean. So then what does the passuk say? So obviously the guy's not chayim misa, meaning the guy beats up his friend. Guy goes into the hospital. We have no idea if he's going to die or not. If he gets better, the passuk says, then the guy's not chayim misa. What's your havamina? You think that the guy, you intended to kill him, but he didn't die. Is there a thought that the guy is going to be chayim misa if the fellow didn't even die? That this guy's going to be walking around the streets and this guy's going to get killed. It was attempted murder. It wasn't actual murder. So what? Elam Alamid. So what you do, and this is taka what happens. What happens is when a guy beats up another guy, while we're waiting for the victim to become better, so we put this guy in jail. So if the victim dies, so then we kill the person. Obviously, if there's asra and edim and all that. And if he doesn't die, shifta yitain v'rape yirape. Right, so he has to give the amount of money for the cost of the damages. So now, hey, tell me what's the case? If there was no hasra on my victim, why is he getting killed? Elapshita the asrube. It's pasha. They were talking about where he was warned. And somebody, if you warn him for something chamer, he's going to be considered warned for davar akal, and that's why he's going to have to pay the damages. And we said that you have to pay, right? So you see that when you have a choice of malkos and mammon, so then you're going to pay mammon. So mask of Rav Ashi, same kasher as we said before. Who says if you give hasra for something chomer, it's going to be hasra for something more lenient? Maybe it's not. And if you do say that it is, who says that misa is stricter? Malkos chomer, maybe malkos is stricter. If they would have tortured Hananim Shav Azariah, then they would have bowed down to the idol. You do not differentiate between hitting that has an end to it and hitting that doesn't have an end to it, right? Meaning, like we said, 39 malkos, there's an end to it, so you can't say that that's the equivalent of torture that seems to be endless. Torture that's endless, that could be worse than misa, but torture that there's an end to is not going to be as bad as misa. So Ramari asked the kasha, well, who says that this whole thing is true? He might have been made of a. Who says that what we're talking about is that he was going to try and kill this guy on purpose, and he's clean from getting killed? Dilma b'shoigeg, maybe it's b'shoigeg, b'nika migalus, maybe it's shoigeg, and he's going to be clean from galus, right? Meaning he's not going to get galus, and you have no proof about hasras and whether he's supposed to get malkos and misa. Maybe we're just saying that he doesn't have to go to galus. So kasha, so Gemara says that is a kasha. Right? So therefore, we don't necessarily have a raya from this case. Fine. Rish Lakish Omar. Now, again, going back to Blat, how we got involved in this whole sugya was that our Mishnah says that if a guy rapes his sister and his aunt, etc., right? So he has to pay a knas. Why does he pay the knas? Because since he's chayav kares, so that's not kamli b'deramine, because kamli b'deramine is if Bezdin on this world has two options for punishments, you only give him the stricter one, not the less strict one. But if it's the punishment is coming from Shemayim, so then you do give him a knas, right? But the Gemara in makos seems to say that you give malkos, not mis, not mammon. So which one is it? So that's a meaning. So it's a stira. So Rish Lakish has a different territory. Rish Lakish Omar, how money Remeir? It's going according to Remeir. Right? Our mission is going according to Remeir. The Omar Loiko Mashalim. He says you get malkos and you pay. You can get two punishments. You can get malkos and you could pay. So Gemara asks, you Remeir afilu pitoy nami. So if it's Remeir, then even if a man rapes his own daughter, which means he should pay a knas, who does the knas go to? To himself. Right? This is a Gemara later on in the parak. Right? Meaning a guy rapes his own daughter. Who do you pay the money to? To the father. So what does he do? Pay the knas to himself. So we say that he doesn't. I mean, he's chayiv anyways. He's chayiv misa anyways. But the Gemara says if that's the case, that you can give double punishment. So why don't we do that? If you're going to say the Rameir says that yes, he can give two punishments of malkos and he has to pay. Meisu Mashalim less than who does not hold that a guy is chayiv misa and he has to pay. So Gemara says Veloy, it's not true, but Tanya, because we learned in the Brayso. Let's say a guy stole, right? So what's the din? What's the din of if you steal a sheep, right? And then you have to pay dalid v'hei, right? If you just get caught, so you have to pay kefir. But if you shecht it, then you have to pay either 4 or 5 times. So let's say a guy steals a sheep and he shechts it on Shabbos. Or he steals and he shechts the animal to avodah zarah, which means he's chayav misa also for that. Gonav sharan niskol. If he steals a sharan niskol, that's a shor that a human slept with, so therefore it gets skila, the tavko, and he shechts it. Mishalim tashlume aru chamisha. He pays tashlume 4 or 5. That's a Rameir holds with Chama and the Chachamim say that it's potter. So you see that Rameir holds you could give Misa and he has to pay Mammon. So the answer is Harit Ma'ala, Amar Rav Yaakov, Amar Rav Yochanan, Amar Rav Yirmi, Amar Rav Shimon Lakish, Rabbi Avin, Rabbi Loi, B'chol Chavrusa, B'shmeidu Rav Yochanan Amri, B'teveh Hayidei Acher. No, when Rameir says he gets Misa and he also has to pay Dalit V'hei, that's talking about where somebody else shechted it. Right? Meaning, so that's
this is because he stole it, right? I'm saying if he did a avodah zarah, he would still get chayav misa, no?
Correct, but
because he stole it, it's 4 and 5 above that.
He stole it, so he has to pay the money of 4 and 5. But the guy that shechted it, if he shechted it on Shabbos, that guy's being chayav misa, right? And the guy who shechted it for avodah zarah, he's going to be the one being chayav misa.
That has nothing to do with stealing, right? No matter if he didn't steal it, it was his own.
Right. The first guy stole it and he gave it over to the second guy.
Right.
So the first guy's chayav the 4 and the 5. The second guy's chayav the misa. Right? So Gemara says, could it be that one guy does the chet, meaning the shliach, right? Shechts the animal, and the original guy, the guy that stole it, is getting has to pay the knas. Right, again, what happened is the guy stole it and then he gave it to his friend to shecht it. So now we're saying this friend shechted it because he shechted it. So the person that stole it has to pay 4 or 5. I don't understand. The guy that stole it he's not the one that shechted. You only have to pay 4 or 5 times the animal's worth if you shecht it. Right? He didn't shecht it, so his friend shechted it. So it says if you shecht it or you sell it, just like when you sell the animal, it's through a third party because you can't sell it to somebody else unless it's somebody else doing the purchasing. So too, even if the shechit is done by somebody else, the guy who stole it has to pay 4 or 5. That's one way of learning it. When it says in the passuk, that's coming to include that even if the crooks shliach shechted it, the crook still has to pay 4 or 5. The word tachas comes to include a shliach. Right, so we have 3 limudim to tell us that yes, if a guy steals something and then he gives it over to his friend to shecht it, he's going to be chayav 4 and 5 even though his friend shechted it. So maskolo mazutra mi kamidi the ilu avad ihu loy mechayev avad shliach mechayev. Is it possible that if he himself did it, he wouldn't be chayav? Why wouldn't he be chayav? Because let's say he shechts it on Shabbos. So he stole it and he shechts it on Shabbos. So since he would be chayav misa, he would not be chayav to pay 4 and 5. But now that his friend shechts it, he would be chayav. Right? V'avad shliach and b'chayav. And now, but his shliach doesn't, he would be chayav. Is that possible? So one answers, iu lamashum deloy mechayav. The reason why he's not paying is not because he's not chayav. Elamashum dekamle b'derabmina. He really is chayav. The reason why he's not going to get punished is because of this rule that we only give him the more severe punishment. We don't give him the lighter punishment, but really he is chayav. So Gemara says, so if it's talking about where somebody else shechted it, So why did the Rabbanan say he's potter? Right? Meaning the Rabbanan had said that he's potter. Why? Because kamli b'derabim. But somebody else shechted it. So one guy shechted it. So why should that make this guy potter from the dalet behei? So the answer is man chachamim. On top of Aleph now, Reb Shimon it's Reb Shimon, the Amar Shchita she'ein ruya lo yishma shchita. A big chiddush in Reb Shimon. He says that if you have a shchita that is not fitting to be eaten, right, then that's not called shchita. So therefore, since these shchitas are not going to be right to be eaten, so therefore that's not considered shchita, and if it's not considered shchita, you can't pay dalet behei. Again, somebody who chefs pays dalet behei, right? But if the shchita is not a kosher shchita, then it doesn't have a din of shchita, and therefore you can't say that the guy's chayav to pay dalet behei. Okay, we'll continue this Gemara tomorrow, Bez Hashem. All right, fine.
Okay, yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Shkoyach.
He's not even in camp.
What does that mean? But come on the
But Rafe, we're missing you in the morning.
We'll try tomorrow.
All right.
Tzvi Yaakov,
Yeah.
is this last sugya right to what's going on? Well, I'm not going to say today, but the mafia run shchita. The reason he gave it to a shaykhid is because no one can shecht. You have a shaykhid that shechts. Here you have shaykhdim that shecht on Shabbos, Shira Niskels. Who's this shaykhid?
Who is he?
The shaykhid is a guy who's going to shecht on Shabbos.
Right. So what's the problem?
Graisa Yid. Saying it's the kind of the mafia run system we have today. You have these kind of shachtim.
So I'm not sure what you're saying.
You have a ride from the Torah that today's system isn't so bad.
Gershon, you sure you want to talk about the mafia while we're still recording?
That's a good point.
Make you an offer you can't refuse.
I see that Peretz is at the Met game. That's